So he soon launches a string of petty heists and holdups that all had a little bit of a dramatic or goofy flair.
The Ronald McDonald flair.
I throw up my hands just once and I'm out of breath. Okay.
Yep.
This is the most relatable criminal we've ever covered.
We are just meat computers.
We're literally meat computers.
Even if it is just hand stuff.
Right. The trauma is real with just hand stuff. Let me tell you.
I don't want any personal contact with anybody. The two of you, I'm good. My husband, I guess. I don't need new people in my life.
He was putting glue on his hand.
He's huffing glue. He's doing glue.
Imagine getting a phone call from a rando 86-year-old
Nursing
woman in a
home.
nursing home saying she has something she needs to get off her chest. Will you
And
come
won't
meet
tell
with
him
her?
over the phone.
Viewer discretion is advised.
Okay. Crushed it.
You are listening to Wine and Crime, the podcast where three friends chug wine, chat true crime, and unleash their worst Minnesotan accents.
Yes.
Yeah,
Quiz.
that's right. And complain about the weather.
Golly, it's too hot here for the fall.
It's too hot. I'm ready for the fall. I'm ready for spooky season weather.
I want to get the sweater out.
I want to put away my shorts.
Yeah. The one pair I own. I would love to retire it. And they're terry cloth, so I really only wear them to bed, so I could just leave them out.
Really ready to wash my shorts.
Really ready to wash my one pair of shorts. I only wash them in the fall.
Yeah.
I wash my clothes entirely too often.
Yeah. I was
need to wash
watching
them less.
I was watching Queer Eye, and Tan France was talking about how you should only wash your jeans like once a month, max, because it'll fuck with the denim. And I was like,
because I don't wear jeans.
and then he gave
leggings.
Yeah.
Oh, fair enough. And then he was like, if your jeans are getting a little funky, but it's not time to wash them, put them in the freezer overnight. And I was like, Tan, maybe these are not tips to give.
Yeah, Tan.
I've
love
heard that
you.
before.
Dial it in. Anyway, who are we? 'Cause I'm not Tan France.
I'm Kenyan and I wash my clothes too often. Humble brag.
I'm Lucy, and I have a wonderful excuse not to do laundry at this time in my life.
Yeah.
Can't lift that that basket, babe.
He doesn't want me going downstairs to the basement where the litter boxes are.
Yeah.
I'm Amanda, and I'm just going to tell my husband I'm pregnant so that I also can't go to the basement where the litter box and the laundry is.
It's really nice.
I'll just be pregnant for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
Yep.
He'll
That
be one of
baby's
those
just still cooking.
one of those Maury, those ladies on Dr. Phil.
Sure.
Yeah, where they're like, they've been pregnant for like 15 months.
But I have a Doppler.
I have no idea what Doppler means, but that's fine. We can move on.
Okay. Anyway, none of this is either
Relevant.
here nor there.
We're so
But
tired.
We have a very special gals pick this week, brought to you by me.
Gal pick.
I
Gal
forced
pick.
this one. I thought it would be cute, and I like it.
Great.
And I selected the topic of the Ol Switcheroo.
With no follow-up details.
Anything involving things being switched out.
Great, because then I followed the directions perfectly. Crushed it.
You think one thing and whoop, switch, it's the other thing.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. I reached a little bit, and I'm not sorry about it because what the fuck else would I do? Background and Saigon.
Love it.
Teratomas.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
already done
thank
that.
you to me for this perfect topic.
I really
And
do love my story today. It's
I
sad,
love my
but I love
story
it.
today.
Yeah.
I kind of love where I went today.
We nailed it.
We all went where our hearts called us to.
We follow, we listen to our heart.
Okay, so Amanda, what is our wine crime pairing for the Ol Switcheroo?
So I feel like this is actually perfect for the season because as this episode comes out, we'd be like a week away from Halloween. And so this will be kind of a fun tutorial if you're hosting maybe a little Halloween shindig, then you could present a cocktail like this. Because this week's episode got me thinking about those fancy cocktails that like bartenders in leather suspenders make when you add a certain ingredient and the cocktail completely changes color.
Oh,
like
fun.
pea blossom or whatever.
Precisely. We're going to get to it. So I wanted to talk about that and then go over a cocktail recipe so you can like make an old switcheroo happen right before your eyes like magic.
The Ol Switcheroo is a great name for a cocktail.
And I did find one sort of on Facebook that didn't have a recipe and it was like cantaloupe based. And I was like, I'm not doing this.
Gross.
So this isn't called the Ol Switcheroo, but you could certainly play with ingredients that include that butterfly pea flower and create your own Ol Switcheroo cocktail. But I looked into this, and so Lucy nailed it that it's called butterfly pea flower. And basically what you can do is steep it into a syrup. And the syrup on its own is this really beautiful, like deep, rich, kind of indigo blue. But then if you introduce something acidic, like say lemon, it alters the pH level of the pea flower and changes it from this deep, like darker than my hair indigo blue to like a fuchsia pink.
Wow.
It's
right
beautiful.
before your eyes. It's super freaking cool.
It reminds me of when my mom does the cabbage at PFC.
Yep.
What does she do? You put vinegar on the steamed cabbage. It turns it bright purple or something.
Yeah, it's super cool. But if you don't feel like seeking out or even making your own like steeped butterfly pea flower, there's this amazing gin called Empress 1908. And it's very beautiful. It's like infused with that butterfly pea flower. And so it's that brilliant indigo blue just on its own in the bottle.
Dang.
I actually think Lisa Vanderpump uses these in not the big pinky. What was the cocktail I had in Vegas? There's like a big purple gin and tonic.
Yeah.
Anyway,
that
I
makes
think
sense.
she uses this. So because tonic itself has enough acidity that like if you start with your ice and then you put in your gin, as you pour in the tonic, it's going to alter it from that indigo to like purple. And then if you squeeze in additional citrus, it could turn pink.
How
Yeah.
cool.
How fucking cool is that? So you can easily just make a gin and tonic with that Empress 1908. They also recommend a really beautiful cocktail, which is their twist on a French 75. So they talk about how the Empress 1908 gin, it's not just gimmicky like blue curacao. Like it's actually a very tasty spirit. It drinks like a London dry gin, but it just
Nice.
has a little bit of a floral element to it from that butterfly pea flower. But it's a delicate gin. So it works really well in a drink like a French 75, which is essentially just lemon and bubbles and like a little bit of liquor. So basically, instead of putting in an additional liquor, you would just use this Empress 1908 gin, top it off with bubbles, add a little bit of lemon or lemonade, and then you're going to watch it as you add the lemon go from this like kind of light blue into this really beautiful like lavender purple right before your eyes. It's amazing.
Pretty.
So those are my recommendations if you want to find some elevated but also like kind of cool color changing cocktail elements. Get that Empress 1908 gin. I'm definitely going to go get it because it's just gorgeous and I want it on my bar.
I need to get back into making myself cocktails.
Yeah.
We
Cocktail.
have so much booze in this house, and
You
we
do have
never drink it.
What
you
I
have,
want to
like
get
2 wet carts.
We have 2 huge bars of booze, and it's all like gathering dust. Half of it has never even been opened since we moved in 4 years ago.
We don't have an ice maker, so I want to get what I always see on the TikTok shop are those little like bar top ice makers. Because then I will actually make a cocktail way more often.
Yes, then you don't have to go back and forth.
Don't have to go back and forth, and also don't have to like, I don't know. We don't have a lot
Use
of we don't
ice
have a-
trays.
We don't have a good freezer for ice trays, and it's like always full of frozen pizzas. There isn't really room for ice trays anyway. I'm doing it. In fact, while you are getting to work on your segment, I'm gonna look up
Do it.
an ice maker.
Do it, baby girl.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
Cheers.
Lucy, cheers. What
Cheers.
is our background and maybe psych, I don't know, for the Ol Switcheroo?
Ooh.
Well, as we discussed, Kenyon has once again suggested a really, really nebulous topic. that I didn't know how to tackle. So
I love it.
today I'll be telling you about one potential way something can be Ol Switcherooed in terms of criminality, and that is the chain of custody.
Yes.
Ooh.
So we
Fuck yes.
really have never talked about this before.
So important.
Yeah, and it's like it plays a big role in like lots of movies.
It's well known.
Yeah, so I just want to tell you about kind of how that works, and I also sort of went down a rabbit hole because I found it extremely interesting.
Okay.
So note that the chain of custody exists outside of criminal proceedings. So like, for example, in clinical trials for vaccines, tracing food products through like the supply chain, establishing provenance in art and antiques. So like figuring out who owned it when and making sure there were no gaps. And also just in the good old postal service,
Makes sense.
tracking numbers. This is essentially the chain of custody. So here's the definition from the National Library of Medicine. The chain of custody, or the COC, the cock, is the most critical process of evidence documentation. It is necessary to assure the court of law that the evidence is authentic, i.e. that it is the same evidence seized at the crime scene and that it was at all times in the custody of a person designated to handle it and for which it was never unaccounted. It always had a babysitter. It was always, people always knew where it was.
Wasn't tampered with.
Wasn't tampered with, wasn't contaminated. Although it is a lengthy process, it is legally required for evidence to be relevant in the court. The continuity of possession of evidence or custody of evidence is and its movement and location from the point of discovery and recovery, so at the scene of a crime or from a person, to its transport to the laboratory for examination and until the time it is allowed and admitted in the court is known as the chain of custody, the chain of evidence. So this is obviously to prevent tampering or contamination of the evidence.
Got it.
The chain of custody in literal terms is basically a paper trail or chronological documentation. In full, this documentation should report who, what, where, when the evidence was initially taken into custody, all the way to the point in a courtroom when a person could ask, right now, where is that bloody shirt?
Okay, so we should always know who's in possession, who's touching it, where it is, who has touched it.
Who has touched it, when, what authority they had to touch it.
Okay.
We'll get to it. So there is, of course, a different scenario for, let's say, digital or electronic evidence, because that would be like,
Who touched that email?
it's in the cloud. I don't know. But the idea is the same. Evidence technicians are the ones responsible for keeping that chain intact and in good shape. Evidence technicians, I feel like I'd be a really good evidence technician.
That'd be fun.
They also collect and process fingerprints. They evaluate evidence. So they're the ones who you get a bunch of shit from a crime scene and then they're like, okay, this is
Relevant. And this
just
is
a towel.
clutter.
This is evidence. Yeah.
Oh, you would be good at that.
They manage the property seized by the government. So they
Put
take
that
it.
tape up. Put a guard there.
I think so, yeah. So they're the ones that handle it in general, because it's not like the detectives, it's not the cops. They hand it over to an evidence tech.
You gotta have a lot of trust in whoever has this position.
Oh,
So they usually work really, really independently, like through all of the systems, all of like the police and legal systems. They also prepare courtroom exhibits.
Oh, you
How fun. It
are
would be like a little science project.
Totally.
This is
Like
your
poster
next
board.
Yeah.
job.
Just like the white gloves all the time, being really careful with the blowpoke.
Yeah,
Oh,
little
the blow poke.
boxes of things.
On a
And-
hillside.
And they testify in court.
luck.
which I would also be really good at.
You would. This combines your elements of your public speaking talent, your attention to detail, your curios, your love of like
Organization.
diorama
Yes.
and decoration.
Yes.
This checks every fucking box for
we
you.
need to spend more time in school learning
Actually
about
identifying our own
actual
interests.
jobs. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
learning beyond just the big archetype jobs that everyone already knows
teacher,
about.
a doctor.
Because they
Yeah.
have us take those fucking aptitude tests that have like 6 possibilities
Right.
for a job. And
Which
like
my
Truck
mom
driver.
got
evidence technician
drill
was
sergeant.
not one of them.
You got drill sergeant?
My
sergeant?
mom
Oh, well, okay.
got
that checks.
drill
Yeah.
sergeant.
No, that's
I
spot
can see
on.
that, yeah.
Yeah.
The one case where it was
They nailed it.
spot
They
on.
fully nailed it.
So the unbroken chain of custody is typically something the prosecutor has to prove in a criminal case, and defense teams will often try to poke holes in that in order to get evidence dismissed from the trial so that the jury
poke
doesn't see it. So they might try to argue that the evidence was planted on the accused, or that it was mishandled after the fact to mislead investigators or to mislead the jury.
Yeah.
So the chain of custody is something that will almost always be part of a prosecution's case.
Wasn't it a huge part of the Stephen Avery thing where they like did all these like intense searches and
Yep.
then on like the 5th search
Then they found the car
something?
keys.
They found the
Yeah.
car keys. Yeah.
Like in plain sight.
Yeah. That was so
I think-
fucking dumb.
I mean, we know this. I think Stephen Avery is sketchy as shit.
Yeah.
But the cops were also
Framed the fuck out of
sketchy as
him.
shit. Yeah.
yep. That is that's a good case of the reasonable doubt. Like,
Mm-hmm.
as we say, no victim is perfect,
Mm-hmm.
but also no perpetrator is necessarily like 100%. And you can still be like a weird sketcho, but
Right.
not
And not be a murderer.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's how I feel about Michael Peterson.
Yeah.
Total
no.
fucking bizarre
You
weirdo.
can be guilty and
Yeah.
still not deserve, like no one deserves being framed.
1,000%.
Like even if he was guilty.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No. I mean, you are so weirdly convinced that Michael Peterson is innocent that
He's-
it concerns me.
Yeah, please don't start writing to him or anything. Like, don't become number 3.
Oh God! Don't go near
No.
any
Number 4.
stairs.
He's so old. I don't want any personal contact with anybody. The two of you, I'm good. My husband, I guess. I don't need new people in my life.
That's actually very fair. I never have to worry about Lucy ending up in like an inmate love situation
Yeah.
because she
No.
wants no new friends.
No. And just having the mental burden of like, oh, I have to write back to him.
Yeah.
I haven't emailed him back yet.
I don't have the mental fortitude. I don't have the executive function for mail correspondence.
No.
Mm-mm.
MAIL or MALE.
Any kind.
I can't.
Yeah.
So here's an example of the chain of custody from thoughtco.com. A police officer collects a gun at a crime scene and places it in a sealed container. We'll get to the sealed containers. The police officer then gives the gun to a police forensics technician, the evidence technician. The evidence technician removes the gun from the container, collects fingerprints and other evidence present on the weapon, and places the gun along with the evidence collected from it back into the sealed container or into a different sealed container. The technician then gives the gun and related evidence to a police evidence technician. Oh, wait, maybe, okay. I shouldn't have replaced forensic technician with evidence technician. You know what? Maybe they're kind of interchangeable. Let's go with that.
technician.
A technician. Then they give it to a different technician, and that evidence technician stores the gun and related evidence in a secure place and records everyone who accesses the evidence during the investigation until final disposition of the case. So
wait,
until
are
the-
those like in the scenes in movies when you go down to the evidence locker and
Sign
there's like
things out.
Yep.
well,
yep.
and there's like some young rookie cop that's like sitting at the front desk that's signing people in and
That's
out.
the evidence technician.
Okay.
The second one, not the one that is dusting it for fingerprints,
And, like,
but the
handling
one that's
evidence.
handling the storage of it.
Correct. And I shouldn't have replaced. So the one who dusts for fingerprints, that would be a forensics technician.
That makes more sense.
And the thing about the evidence technician, who I said about the fingerprints, they take fingerprints. I think they're like at the police station taking perps fingerprints when they're booked in.
Sure.
That
Okay.
was my understanding. Because
That
then
tracks.
the fingerprints are then evidence.
Mhm.
I guess. I don't know.
Sure.
It counts as records that need to be kept
Mhm.
unmolested.
You don't want to have an old switcheroo with the fingerprints.
Sure don't.
Yep. So each sample or piece of evidence goes in its own tamper evident bag or container, and each bag or container has its own chain of custody form. I have a couple samples of these chains of custody.
Tamper
forms.
evident
Tamper
means if well no,
Tamper
tamper
evident.
evident means if you fuck with it, it's going to be really obvious. Like there will be indicators that it's been tampered with.
It'll
right?
be like taped shut.
Okay. So
So
like
if
the
you-
bank bags that get you with fucking blue ink would be tamper evident bags.
Yeah, but we wouldn't use that in this scenario.
Right. But that's just an example that makes sense to me.
Yeah. It basically means that they're taped shut with
You'd
tape.
have to cut the tape.
You'd have to cut the tape and yeah. It is evident if you tamper with it.
Got it. That makes sense.
So if it gets transferred to a new bag or container, it gets a new separate chain of custody form. So pieces of evidence can often have multiple forms.
Because they moved around or got it.
So this form has to include at least the following information. We have the unique identifier of the container itself. So we know that it was maybe not the original container or whatever.
But it's been stored in this Tupperware.
Okay.
The name and signature of the person who collected the sample initially. The official address and contact number of that person or that entity, like making all this happen, like the police station. The name of the recipient, who that package is going to, the laboratory's address, and the details of each sample, because sometimes there are multiple samples in the same container, including a unique identifier and matrix. It's like a thorough description. The date and time of collection, the type of analysis required, whether we want fingerprints off of this, we want to determine what kind of blood this is, or, whatever. The signatures of everyone involved in the chain of possession with the date and the time. So it'll be like a list, like a library card. Not like an ID library card, but like
No, but like the checkout
the
that's
book-
on the inside
the
cover.
slip that goes in the book,
Yeah.
which seems so fucking ancient, but I remember that. That was a thing.
Yep.
The date and method of delivery. So it's delivered here on February 9th via
Carrier pigeon.
the evidence van of this jurisdiction. The authorization for the analysis of the sample and any other information about the sample.
So it's like they pulled it out because they wanted to get fingerprints off of this thing. Now here's the authorization that this person is going to get the fingerprints off of this thing. Okay.
So
Yeah,
who's
this is
analyzing
deep.
all this information, or is no one analyzing
We're about
it?
to get to it, and this is
Okay.
my favorite part.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
All right.
So, where does the evidence go? To the crime or forensic laboratory, a facility where various analyses are performed. I desperately want to tour a crime lab.
Yeah.
It is like a fun house of forensics. That's where everything cool happens. So this is from my boyfriend. I'm like breathing hard. Okay.
Yeah, we can tell.
So cute. You're so pregnant. It's so cute.
Very excited.
I throw up my hands just once and I'm out of breath. Okay.
Yep.
Crime laboratories can investigate physical, chemical, biological, or digital evidence and often employ specialists in a variety of disciplines, including behavioral forensic science, forensic pathology, forensic anthropology, crime scene investigation, and ballistics.
Nice. Okay.
Many crime labs are publicly funded and administered by federal, state, or provincial or local government, although there are a growing number of private labs that specialize in fields such as drug analysis and DNA fingerprinting. So, here's a fun fact for you. England and Wales are among the few places in the world to have exclusively privatized crime labs.
That's really surprising to me. I would think it'd be more likely to have that here where we privatize fucking everything.
Yeah.
We'll kind of get to the privatization and why it's actually an ethical issue to have it
So it's so
run
that they're
by-
not trying to help the prosecution necessarily.
We'll get to it.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So, all crime labs have some sort of evidence intake unit where the evidence is received and that little form is filled out, and it's assigned a unique laboratory and case identifier. So this may be a number assigned by a clerk or a barcode affixed to each item and tracked by a computer. So today I would imagine it's more likely it spits out a barcode. You put the barcode on the bag, you put the same barcode on a list
it has
somewhere.
to get scanned everywhere it goes.
Right.
Yeah. So the barcode system generates an automatic chain of custody of the evidence and makes it possible to determine its location in the lab at any time. From login, the evidence is usually stored in a secure environment, which may be a temporary storage area or the main storage area for all the evidence in the lab until it's assigned to one or more examiners.
Or like a flood-prone basement in a
Oh, yeah.
swampy city.
Yeah.
Or
New
Or like
Orleans.
an asbestos-filled dry rot attic
About to cave
about
in.
to set fire.
Yes, very flammable.
Correct.
Yep.
Ideally.
That is ideal, but we should be so lucky. Examiners may have separate storage areas for their own evidence. So there are different units inside the crime lab. And maybe each unit, depending on the size of the lab, each unit might have its own area for storage. And
Makes
this
sense.
is where I got really excited about the different units.
This is where you've been excited. Okay.
Yeah.
This whole time.
You had
It's
to
a
stop
roller
for
coaster.
breath.
I know. So I'm trying to power through. So, different units in the drug lab. And of course, not every lab has all these different units, but these are like the main variety. There are drug units where they inspect pills, powders, and liquids.
I swear, it was Parmesan cheese.
Officer.
You like the donuts, eh?
Oh, God.
They have the biology unit where they look at blood, semen, saliva, bones, plant material, also bugs. So they need to look at like decomposition.
Assess those maggots, baby.
They have, Kenyon, you'd like this, a trace evidence unit
Love it. Love
where
it.
they look at fibers, fire, and explosive residues to determine like arson, maybe.
They should have an entire unit only for maroon fibers.
They really
we are
should.
overwhelmed with them.
They're everywhere.
They are everywhere.
The trace evidence unit would also look at glass, like shattered, like broken glass, different soils, paints, and coatings, paint chips. They would also look at trace evidence like hair and skin, even though the biology unit would be like, it would that kind of thing would either be in the biology unit or the trace evidence
I guess it would
unit.
depend on the amount of it. Like if it's really, really trace evidence, then I guess it would have to be handled by this unit.
And of course, there's going to be overlap between the units too. They also have a firearms and tool marks unit.
Yikes.
So that could be like, for example, restoring obliterated serial numbers on weapons,
Cool.
matching spent bullets to the weapon that fired them. But also something like determining whether a certain pair of wire cutters cut a particular wire.
Wow.
Because
Love
that
that.
kind of examination is super similar to like the
Ballistics.
ballistics kind of
Yeah,
stuff.
you're
That's
lining up.
wild.
Yeah.
Yes.
Tool marks.
Certain tools are going to leave certain patterns. That makes perfect sense.
Isn't that so cool?
That's very cool.
We have our fingerprint unit. We have the digital unit. So that handles stuff like digital photos or data from computers. We have the toxicology unit, which usually supports the medical examiner. So I'd be like, if this person was drunk when they got in this car accident or whatever. And they also have the questioned documents unit, which is where they examine handwriting and typewriting to determine the author or the authenticity of the document.
I feel like
Very
I would be
cool.
extremely good at this.
You really
Very
would.
cool.
They also analyze.
I wouldn't be good at any of this.
Not your skill set.
No.
Not even the
no.
signing things in
No.
and out.
No, because I will definitely space out and forget. I'll test all the drugs with my mouth and nose.
You'd be the surly detective.
Sure.
Yeah. The detective's partner.
You would be the
Wife.
secretary who is like clackety clack clack clacking with her nails,
1,000%.
giving people shit and not
Giving
letting
people
people
shit
in that don't
and
have the right
turning in
authorization.
All the corrupt cops.
Yeah.
I will squeal immediately.
Yeah.
You'd be the. What are you here for?
Mhm.
I
Yes,
don't think
bitch.
so. Not today.
Yep.
I'm about to go on lunch.
With a pen on a long chain.
Mm.
Also, the questioned documents unit also analyzes inks and papers, as well as copier toners and other forms of writing.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, when you see, like, oh, this must have come from the same typewriter, this is the same suspect because, like, the serif on the lowercase t is missing or something
There's
like that.
always something off about everyone's typewriter.
Totally.
No two typewriters are identical.
No. So after the physical evidence is analyzed, it's typically moved to an evidence storage room, which is usually at a police station or a fire-prone attic or a moldy basement. It's also sometimes in a separate facility like, well, I'm about to say, after the statute of limitations ends on any given case, the evidence is it might be retained just in case, or it might be destroyed, especially if it's drug evidence, or it might be sold, depending on the laws of the region. It's weird to think that they can just sell that stuff if it's like, well, it's really of no use to us anymore. But if it's if it could be applicable, so like if it's evidence for a cold case that hasn't been solved, but that maybe there is no statute of limitations, or they just want to hang on to it, it'll usually go to like a bigger separate storage unit that's basically like a warehouse. So kind of to answer your question, Kenyon, here are some potential problems when it comes to crime labs and the chain of custody in general. So number one, and obviously, it takes a lot of very conscientious effort on the parts of many individuals to maintain these records and therefore the integrity of the sample. So you have to be really intentional about doing a good job with it.
Yeah, imagine if you just one little fuck up and suddenly the person isn't getting convicted,
Right.
or like
Yeah,
whatever.
they toss all the evidence out of the trial. That'd be insane. Also, crime labs in the United States and many other countries do not have a mandatory process for accreditation.
Oh, should we open one?
Ooh.
We probably could open a one.
Can it be tax-free? Like a church?
My laboratory for questionable documents is open. If you have any you want to send me,
Let's go.
it's why it's open.
Isn't that basically what Coven Confessions is?
Yes.
Send me your questionable
Send
documents.
me your questionable documents to the
Totally.
Wine and Crime P.O. Box, and I will analyze them.
Stop confessing to homicide and manslaughter, though.
Yeah. We will answer subpoenas, and I
We'll
will
sing.
be tempted to talk about your murder that you committed on an episode, and our lawyer will get very pissed at us.
Again. So because many labs are part of local law enforcement agencies, a lot of people have access to them. If you're a detective, if you're a cop, if you're whoever a cop wants to bring into the lab, you can just go into the lab and chat with the technicians or do
Pressure
whatever.
them, bribe them.
So this can not only affect the risk of tampering or contamination of evidence, but also bias in favor of the prosecution in analysis. So this is why a lot of defense teams will push for a private lab to analyze the evidence, so the private lab can have their own rules to be like, you're not
makes sense.
invited.
That
Yeah.
makes sense. Also, just that they're not like best buddies with
Right.
the players involved in the case.
Uh-huh.
Kind of like Devers in the staircase thing.
Yeah.
Dwayne Deaver,
Fucking-
whatever his name is. But
Yeah.
it can get very tangled, which can be very problematic, especially on that thin blue line bullshit. So that kind of explains, to me, it explains why we don't have more privatized labs, because the government doesn't really have much of an incentive.
Because the state
to-
actually benefits from not having them. That's sketchy as fuck. Okay.
Yep.
Yep. But I still want to go to a crime lab. So if
Of
anyone
course.
has access to apparently one connected to a local law enforcement agency, because you could just go right in,
Yeah.
hit me up. Hit me up.
We're down.
Also, if you're an evidence technician, I would like
we will wear
to speak
gloves.
with you.
We will wear little booties.
Oh,
We
I
will
love
wear
the
hairnets.
booties.
I would prefer to wear all
might
of
not
the
wear a
above.
hairnet, but
Amanda has to wear a hairnet.
Your hair is everywhere.
Everything will be contaminated.
I don't think I need
Screaming
to wear one because it
infidelities.
would be so obvious that it was my hair. So it's just
No.
easy to be like, oh, don't worry about that blue
Okay.
hair.
The DNA would throw him off for sure.
Right. Because, well, the DNA comes from the root. That's all me. There's no root on my purchased hair. So we're good.
So anyway, that is
We're
my attempt at tackling the old switcheroo. And
Beautiful.
I thought it was fascinating.
Chain
It
of
is.
custardy.
Well done. Okay. Ronald William Tackman was born
McDonald.
was born in Manhattan on October 1st, 1953. His father, William Tackman, was an executive of the New York Titans football club, which later became the New York Jets. Tough break, but he was mostly out of the picture.
Queen
Next.
of sports.
Queen of sports. His mother, Genevieve Jean Devine,
That's
Cute.
adorable.
worked and was gone a lot. So Ronald was mostly raised by his aunt and uncle in Queens, and that didn't go great.
Oh, dear.
Despite being
Queens
highly,
never does.
I think they meant well. I think they just couldn't handle him. He was a lot to handle.
Okay.
Despite being highly intelligent, Ronald didn't do well academically. He dropped out of school. Some reports say in the 3rd grade. Some say 5th grade. Safe to say it was early on. Like when you read that he dropped out of school, you kind of assume high school, but
Right.
no.
But it's grade school.
Yeah.
That's wild.
Dropped out.
Yeah. And he took on odd jobs, including running a hot dog cart, which I'm
What?
just picturing a 3rd grader doing now.
Okay.
I would drop out in 3rd grade to run a hot dog cart.
My former boss and the owner of the Harriet Brasserie, his name is Fernando Silva, when he was growing up in Brazil, when he was like 9, so like 3rd or 4th grade, he worked at a hot dog cart.
He's this guy.
He's
Instead
like
of
this
going
guy.
to school,
No, he also went to
Okay.
school, but yeah,
Yeah.
he had it all.
he had it all.
What? Living the dream.
Living it.
Child
The hot dog
labor.
dream.
Later, he worked doing like carpet and aluminum siding installation, whatever. But really, he was working on his rap sheet during this period. So his first charge at age 16 was for selling glue to other teenagers who wanted to get high.
Oh my
Kind of love
god.
because like you can just buy glue, guys.
No. No, I've got a guy.
Then it's not illicit enough.
Yeah. It's just Elmer's glue, so you can do the thing where you put it on the back of your
Peel?
hand and then peel it off and pretend it's your skin.
I
That used to get me high.
was such a little narc that like I in my brain in 5th grade that was doing drugs.
Peeling the glue?
Yes.
Oh my God, you dork.
You're so your mother's child.
So
The
you
paranoia.
told on people?
I didn't tell on people, but I definitely in my brain it was like
I
they're
can't associate
doing
with them.
drugs.
They're doing glue.
Because it brought them so much joy to
Because I knew
peel it
that
off.
you could. I knew there was something about glue and drugs. I don't know where or how I knew that.
It really was euphoric to peel the glue off, especially when you got like one big piece.
Yeah. So
Or
I
if
never
you did
it.
like multiple, like 4 layers. So it was like
Oh.
kind of thick.
I need to get glue. I need to get back into glue.
Gotta get back into glue.
So, throughout the 1970s, Ronald is caught for other petty crimes, but then things escalate. He's stealing cars. By the 80s, he's on to robbery and like stick-ups. This is a long quote from New York Magazine. There's a great article. It's in my sources. Lots of my info came from this article. Quote, Tackman is a perennial stick-up man. Sometimes he'd stash a toy gun in his waistband or use a cigarette lighter shaped like a gun or push his finger into the cloth of his jacket to simulate a weapon. His preferred targets were kid-friendly retail stores with names like Yogurt Rainbow.
Oh my God.
His crimes were crude theater, a game of dress-up. He'd walk in with a disguise, flash a fake weapon, and bark movie-sounding demands like, "You know what I want." He was so
Keep the change, you filthy animal.
Yeah. He was so unconvincing that sometimes his would-be victims chased him away.
Oh my God.
He was a hard-living party guy in tight jeans and half-buttoned shirts he robbed to feed his drug habit. End quote. And mostly
glue
cocaine.
habit.
He did a lot of cocaine. I think he might have dabbled with some heroin when cocaine got too expensive. At some point, he gets married and has a son.
Wow.
Neither here nor there.
Yeah, the chain of custody information was not very clear.
So then it was the 70s. So then 1985 happens, and basically Ronald's whole life gets turned upside down. It is a really bad year for him. I don't know the order of the following events, but these all happened within just a few months of each other.
Was it his anus horribilis?
His anus horribilis. Yes, it
His
was.
horrible anus.
His horrible, horrible anus year. His son Christopher, this is sad, and I don't know how old Christopher was, but his son Christopher died in a boating accident that year. He and his wife Joy got divorced, and then he gets his first violent robbery conviction, for which he would end up serving 22 years in prison.
Whoa.
So that's a bad
That's
year.
a lot.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
a bad year followed by a bad 22 years.
And the corgis were not well.
Right?
Ugh.
The queen's corgis.
And his son's a pervert. Not his. His son died, but the
None
queen's
of
son.
these jokes will make any sense unless you've listened to Purebred Crimes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so I don't have more info about this violent robbery conviction, although I don't think he ever used a real weapon, but I think maybe it could still count as violent robbery
Mostly finger stuff.
if you if you fake a weapon.
It can. It
Yeah.
can because the victim
The
doesn't
fear
know.
is the
Yeah.
same. Yeah.
The trauma is still real, even if it is just hand stuff.
Right. The trauma is real with just hand stuff. Let me tell you. So then, very early into this sentence, in April 1985, while being transferred to a prison facility in upstate New York, Ronald commandeered a corrections department bus. He took a guard hostage, made him strip, donned his uniform, then locked the other guards in the back alongside the detainees, who I don't think they were able to, I don't think the detainees hurt the guards. And then he started driving in the guard uniform, the bus, back to Manhattan.
Whoa.
Okay.
Got a little ballsy all of a sudden.
Yeah. It's
So-
giving Hannibal Lecter.
Okay, so it's not, though,
Totally.
because
Did he take his face?
I'm going to get to it, but it's less serious than that.
It's not that sophisticated.
Yeah. So when he's driving the bus, he starts to hear reports over the intercom, the CB radio or whatever, that the bus is missing. Like, you're supposed to have arrived here by now. Like, what's your location? Whatever. And he pulls over because he's like, fuck the bus. I'm going to leg it.
Hoof it.
But he decides that the detainees are in the back being like, let us out, dude. Like, come on. Like, let us out too. Like, whatever. And so he's like, okay, I'm going to help them out. And so he opens the back, but the other detainees tackle him and subdue him.
Oh my God. Well, they don't want to go down for this.
They don't want to go down for this. Really, they want credit for apprehending him because then they think they can get time off their own sentences.
Yeah.
That's probably the smartest move.
Which they probably did.
Kenyon the narc would do.
Yeah.
Yeah. He was putting glue on his hand.
He's huffing glue. He's doing glue.
He was doing glue.
So he gets tackled and his escape is foiled. Okay.
Bye-bye.
Never help other people.
Right?
Nope.
You try to help your fellow man.
That's the lesson.
Yeah. So how did he even manage to commandeer the bus in the first place, you ask?
I do ask.
He did so by wielding a gun, quote unquote,
Finger gun?
that he had carved out of soap.
Yes. Oh, hell yeah.
You love the fake weapon.
This is almost as good as
The fake prison weapons.
the Clementines.
nectarine fucking
grenades.
bomb grenades. Yeah.
Avocado.
God.
So the gun was apparently wildly realistic looking, and Ronald would go on to prove a master sculptor, and we will get to it.
He's an artist.
He is. There's another quote from New York Magazine. Quote, his inspiration came from statues that Hispanic inmates had carved from soap. I looked at them and said, didn't John Dillinger make a gun out of soap and escape? So I carved out a gun. He used black paint pilfered from his Rikers art class to paint the barrel.
God.
Brown paint for the handle. He stole small screws from old clippers in the barber shop and plugged them into the soap.
They gave him everything he needed.
Another metal piece he used for the nub. He cannibalized a broken pair of eyeglasses and used part of the frame as the gun's trigger guard.
Wow. It was basically functional.
Well, no, but it looked really good.
Yeah.
And thus began Ronald Tackman's long career of famed escapes. In September of 1985, he tried to shoot his way out of another transport van. So this is just 6 months later.
With another soap gun?
Well, quote, every time I got on a bus, the COs, they'd say, Tack, you better fire a shot through the windshield next time or no one's gonna believe you.
Because they're all making fun of him about the soap gun.
So I thought, that's a great idea. So this time, he used a rubber band-powered zip gun.
Brilliant.
Don't really get that, but okay.
It's like a slingshot.
Yeah, basically. That was made out of recycled barbecue materials.
Okay.
Bones?
No.
Probably like sticks and skewers and...
metal tubing, aluminum cans from pop cans, a comb, a matchstick. The quote-unquote gunpowder was graphite from pencil shavings and charcoal dust.
This guy
dude, he's an engineer.
Real smart.
Yes.
This is actually brilliant.
Cool.
Brilliant. So this makeshift gun fired once. It worked.
Did it break the window?
It didn't break the window, and it wasn't enough to convince the guards to drop their own weapons. And Tackman also, I think, knew that the gun was gonna fire once, but it probably wasn't gonna fire twice.
Sure.
Yeah.
So he fired once as a warning shot, and was like, "Drop your weapons!" And they were like, "No, we're gonna
do it again and prove it."
Right?
Doesn't sound like a real gun.
Yeah, something was off, and so they did not drop their own weapons, and so this attempt also failed.
Good try,
That's
though.
pretty fucking remarkable, though. I'm very much impressed.
The fact that he, created a gun and got it to fire at all.
Yeah.
He should be on Naked and Afraid. He'd win.
So he's back in prison. Ronald gets in trouble now for teaching other inmates how to build makeshift or fake guns.
Hell yeah.
Obviously.
Get that hustle, Robert.
And
Ronald.
so they're like, he cannot be around these other inmates because he's a bad influence. And so he ends up in the box. So being in solitary confinement makes Ronald's imagination run totally wild.
Oh, dear.
He's,
What will he come up with next?
he's in solitary for 23 hours a day for like 2 decades.
Yeah, he has nothing to
Oh
do
my
but plot his
God.
next move.
Yeah.
So he did serve 22 years?
Yes.
Wow.
I would go so absolutely Looney Tunes in solitary.
Oh,
You
would
wouldn't
go
be good.
Looney Tunes in 6 hours in solitary.
Yeah. Oh, that's being generous.
Yeah.
2 hours.
I was accounting for a nap.
True. Okay, fair enough.
So he spends a lot of time on his artwork, painting, sculpting, papier-mâché, which he like makes himself. You know, it's all like prison material. Like, so he's given
Toilet
some art
paper.
materials, but he also has to like make a lot of his own. So he's like making his own paintbrushes from his hair and like all kinds of shit, right?
From that cute popular guy's hair.
Oh my God. Oh my God, I forgot about that. Holy shit.
I just want you to know that the rumor that I'm stealing
It's
your hair to
not
make
true.
a paintbrush is not true.
I did not make any paintbrushes out of your hair. I swear to God. Anyway, nice to meet you. Bye. That was fucking amazing. Coven Confessions, y'all.
I've got to listen to the Coven Confession.
It's
So good.
Whatever our most recent gag was, the Coven Confession was
The best.
Incredible.
okay. So he also spends time coming up with detailed drawings of new inventions. He's always, his brain is always going.
He's Michelangelo, Da Vinci.
Yeah. Yes. Actually, other people have made that comparison.
Oh,
So finally, in 2006, Tackman is released from prison after serving 2 decades.
Jesus.
It's a big adjustment because he went in when it was 1985, and now it's 2006.
There's iPhones.
9/11.
Yeah. But at first and on paper, he seems to be doing well. He gets a girlfriend. He has a job installing flooring. He still has like a relationship with his mom. You know,
It's going all right.
yeah. Compared to a lot of people.
I know I recently said that I don't have room to be friends with like a convict. If people
Ronald.
if people were recently out of prison who had been there for a really long time and they needed like a mentor to adjust to like the new world, that would be fun.
I would not send them to you, you
No.
fucking weirdo.
Absolutely not.
That would be not good for them. Very
you.
fun for you, I'm sure, but yikes.
You can volunteer to like help be like a person who does like orientations for like new arriving refugees
Yes, I've thought about doing that.
and like take them to the grocery store and like, you
Target
know.
practice.
Yeah. Target practice? Oh, okay. The store
Like
Target.
you do with your friend Ben.
Oh,
Yeah.
that Target.
That's
Yes.
like socializing. He's
Yeah.
not socialized.
No.
Hi, Ben.
Okay. So, but it doesn't take long for him to get back to his old tricks, both drugs and crime, to pay for
Sure.
drugs. So he soon launches a string of petty heists and holdups that all had a little bit of a dramatic or goofy flair.
The Ronald
Amazing.
McDonald flair.
For example, he was really into disguises.
Love it.
He had a large collection of hats and even a prosthetic nose that he would use to
Yes.
disguise himself,
Oh my God.
which was important
He's a theater kid. I love him.
because he mainly held up stores in his own neighborhood just blocks from his home.
Yep.
He didn't have a license.
Well, when asked why he stayed so close to home, he replied, I'm lazy.
Good for you. Good for him. I love him.
It's the most relatable criminal we've ever covered.
I love this person so much.
He wore a black gangster hat to rob a World of Nuts ice cream store.
World of Nuts
ice cream? The fuck?
Fucking yum.
Sounds amazing. I want ice cream so bad
Is
right
it
now.
nuts or is it ice cream? Figure it
It's
out.
ice cream with nuts in it.
Sounds
Keep
great.
up. Go have some cheesecake and take a nap.
I have my pumpkin bar still.
Yum.
Put it in the fridge. Eat it cold.
I
Holy
have
shit.
5 more where this came from. I know what I'm doing when we're done.
He also used a plastic nose and a camouflage hat to steal $100 from his neighborhood Dunkin' Donuts, and then he turned around and bought drugs with it.
America runs on Dunkin'.
Turned to his right and bought drugs.
Yeah.
He never used real weapons. He, again, had this silver gun-shaped cigarette lighter or, rather unconvincing toy guns. And sometimes the holdups didn't work. And people were like, no.
Get that plastic fucking shit out of here. Go home.
So in 2008, he is arrested for this new string of robberies. And he's back in the system. But the title of this episode is The Ol Switcheroo.
Mm-hmm.
And I haven't even gotten to the good part yet.
He switched a gun. He switched his nose.
Nope, that's not the switches I'm here to tell you about.
Okay.
On September 30th, 2009, Ronald...
My birthday!
Your birthday! Ronald Tackman is being transported from Rikers Island for a court appearance. Because it's a court hearing, he's entitled to wear plain clothes. And so he'd dressed to the nines. He's got on this 3-piece suit.
He glued on his favorite nose.
He's also not considered violent, so they remove his handcuffs. Big mistake.
He
Big
shot
mistake.
at a bus full
Huge.
of cops. Kind of.
He
Kind
shot
of.
toward a window with a very fumbly fake gun.
Some
It's
might
different.
say he shot at a bus full of cops.
Some might.
He still has on bright orange prisoner slippers, though, as a precaution to, identify him as a detainee.
I mean, that's just Y2K fashion.
He just liked him.
Orange slides, Crocs are coming into fashion.
Orange slides.
Prada
Yeah.
slides.
Who isn't wearing orange slides in 2009? Come on.
But Tackman had thought of this, and he'd also worn that day extra long black socks. Socks that he could pull entirely over the slippers to hide their bright orangeness.
Brilliant.
Basically, in the courthouse, there's a bullpen where prisoners are held waiting for their lawyers to escort them to their particular courtroom at the right time.
Mm-hmm.
And this holding cell is on the 12th floor of the building. And so Ronald is waiting in there, and some of the prisoners are handcuffed. He happens to not be.
Mm-hmm.
He notices that the officers leave the door cracked open while they uncuff and hand over each prisoner to the lawyers.
How Bundy of him.
Mm-hmm. So he finds his opportunity and he slips out when the door is open and he dashes down the stairwell.
Bye-bye.
Then the coup de grace, when he reaches the lobby, he walks up to the security guards, tells them that he's a lawyer and he needs to leave, and where's the nearest exit.
Oh my
And
God.
they show him the exit.
Show him out.
So
Right this way, sir.
at this point, he is wearing
A
shoes
three-piece suit.
under his socks.
Yeah, but they're just black socks, so if you're not looking that closely.
Right. If anyone had looked closely, they'd be like, what? Why is he wearing
Amazing.
but it's just black and then a 3-piece suit.
I love it.
They just took him at his word that he was a lawyer. He's in a suit.
Confidence is so key, you guys.
Yeah.
Yeah. Showed him out. He walked out the front door of the courthouse building.
I love him so much. I love him.
He's pretty great.
So, probably unadvisedly, Ronald's first stop as a free man was
Duncan.
to his 81-year-old mother's apartment uptown, which, like, don't do that.
I know, but I understand.
Walking into the building, he saw his mom's doorman and told him, "Hey, I just got out." And the doorman's like, "Looking good, man. I like the suit."
Oh, way.
He did get out.
He did.
I mean, he
just
didn't lie.
Get out.
Yeah.
So his mom is surprised to see her son, but she also has memory problems in her old age, so she doesn't quite like realize what's
Put it
happening.
together.
And she just believes his story that he's out on bail.
Right.
And he had stashed $7,000 in cash in her apartment. So in addition to just like wanting to see her,
Yep.
he goes there, he changes out of the suit.
Mm-hmm.
He's got other clothes there.
He left himself a drop.
Yeah, got his cash, heads back out. But does he then get on a bus, rent a car?
Get out of town.
Get out of town.
Doubt it.
I'm guessing
He's
not.
lazy,
He's lazy.
remember?
No. He goes to crash on a buddy's couch in Spanish Harlem.
Oh my God, bestie. I'm out, babe.
The only problem is when the buddy's girlfriend gets home from working the night shift, she is like, abso-fucking-lutely not, and makes him leave.
That'd be Kenyon.
Yup.
Yeah. I'd be like, no.
We just had house guests. I'm done.
It doesn't matter who this man is.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
He's out.
So the next day was Ronald's 56th birthday, October 1st, 2009.
Oh my God.
He's out just like wandering New York City during the day because he doesn't have a place to go.
Right.
And he sees his photo in the local papers and he starts to get nervous. So he lays low and
Puts
he
on his
gathers,
nose.
literally gathers new supplies, including 2 burner phones, quote, crack cocaine, a bag with wigs, costume makeup, phony beards, mustaches, self-tanner,
Yeah. Yep.
a bogus passport, which could not have been high quality,
No.
and 4 gun-shaped cigarette lighters, and also some White Castle.
He loves
Oh,
the
wow.
gun-shaped cigarette lighters.
Well, because he can use them as a prop, like under his jacket
They're
to
a work
hold people
yeah, I know
up.
that. This is just the
They're a work
third
expense.
reference to the gun-shaped cigarette lighters over
They're
like a
easy to get.
30-year stretch.
So that night, he treats himself to a fancy dinner, and then he takes the bus back uptown to spend
At White Castle?
Well, he had White Castle for lunch, and then
Oh,
a
okay.
fancy dinner, I don't know where. Takes a bus, because he's afraid to get on the subway, so he takes a bus back uptown, and spends another night at his buddy Mike's, because he knows the girlfriend is working.
Come
This
on.
is like, I could so see Zach being like, yeah, buddy, you can stay.
yeah, it's
Kenyon's
She's
just
at
gone
work.
for the night.
Whatever.
Yeah.
She's visiting
She
friends.
won't know. She'll be fine. I get
my
that.
God.
I'm not gonna. Bros before hoes. I'm not telling her shit.
Oh, one time, one of our
joke
college
is infuriating
friends
me.
came to visit, and I was out of town, and I knew the college friend was coming. I was sad to miss him, but he was coming to stay at our house. This is before Sonia was born. We literally had 3 guest rooms, essentially, at this time. For some reason, he didn't stay in any of the guest rooms, and he slept on top of the couch on the 3rd floor and used a towel as a blanket.
What?
Zach.
Men! What
This
is
is
wrong
a
with
man
men?
thing to do. And
Give him a bed and a blanket, for God's sakes.
know.
and another thing.
Yeah.
They'll sleep on the couch with no kind of sheet, and then your couch is basically a contaminated, sweaty man couch. Then sleep in a bed where I can at least wash the sheets after.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't want to put us out.
Yeah. Okay.
That's really, that is the most straight guy shit.
And Zach,
I've ever fucking heard.
Yes.
like the friend didn't ask Zach, like, hey, bro, can I have a pillow and a blanket? Or like,
No, because
can I
Zach
sleep in
should
this
have
bed?
provided that as
I
the
know.
host.
I agree.
Ugh,
And
you
yet,
guys are so
the time
dumb.
I came and surprised you out of nowhere, and he made a whole bed and with the sheets and pillows and everything without
yeah, but
being
he knew
prompted.
what he would have been in for if you had not been provided
they
with
know.
a bed.
It's a choice.
It's
Yeah.
a choice.
Okay.
Jesus.
So he goes back to his buddy Mike's, but Mike, not such a great buddy.
Oh no, narc.
Mike was waiting for
Michael.
him on his stoop, and so were the cops.
Michael.
You son of a bitch. Fuck you, Mike.
So to
goddamn
quote Ronald,
snitch.
somebody gave me up on my fucking birthday. Ain't that something?
Oh,
It was my
birthday. It was his birthday.
At
No.
least he got a nice dinner beforehand.
Fuck Mike, dude. Arrest him
Yeah.
for being a dick.
So Tackman was sentenced to 28 years to life in prison for the robberies and the courthouse escape. He was again released, though, in 2020 after being granted a medical parole from the Mohawk Correctional Facility in Rome, New York, which is very close to Hamilton.
Yeah, it is.
And this medical parole was really warranted because Ronald had a lot of health issues. He had hepatitis, diabetes, cirrhosis of the liver. He'd done a lot of drugs. He'd done some pretty hard living.
So it wasn't a COVID thing.
not COVID related, or maybe because
He's so
had all
fucked up
of
that if he
this
had gotten COVID, he would have died
instantly.
probably.
Yeah. And not long after his release, he did die at the age of 66 in hospice in the Bronx.
Dang.
I know. And I'm pretty sure his mom had already passed away, so it's sad. His lawyer, Joseph Heinzman, said admiringly of his unusual client, quote, "This is a guy who has more fun figuring out the puzzle than completing it. The challenge is over, so why bother with the rest? The rest is just detail." Like, he really
That's
didn't
spot on.
care
Yeah.
that much about, like, getting away.
Right.
Yeah.
Because if he cared that much, he would have left New York.
He wanted
Get
to
on a bus and
pull
leave.
off the escape.
And he did.
And why he robbed places like within a block of his house.
Yeah.
I love him so much.
I know. So besides his high-profile escapes, Ronald Tackman's legacy will live on through his prison art. The New York Times reports, quote, "Behind bars, his true creativity came to the fore. Besides visualizing his getaways and fashioning the tools he needed for his escapes, he sculpted and painted, allowing him to conjure up exotic places and people he would never otherwise see." I really don't know if he ever left New York City. Well, I mean,
Yeah.
he went to prisons around New York State,
Right.
but I don't know if he ever left New York State, honestly.
Oh, I'm looking at his artwork.
Oh, did you put some on the drive?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool.
Ooh, okay, I'll lean back in for that.
And so he said, quote, "I've been all around the world in my paintings." He would
Oh,
use
wow.
food coloring for paint or his own hair to make paintbrushes. He molded papier-mâché out of white bread and toilet paper. Some of his drawings have a surrealist quality.
These are cool.
He did a drawing of an inmate serving a 210-year sentence.
I like that drawing.
One of his masterpieces is an elaborate soap carving, not of a gun, but of a buffalo, which is that should be on the drive, I think.
Yeah. Oh, wow. That is really good.
Some of
Wow.
Tackman's paintings and sculptures sold for several $100s. Not many of his pieces are available today. He did create a book called $1 Million Ideas with examples like a tube that dispenses peanut butter and jelly at the same time.
Oh, they have that.
Yeah. An electronic bicycle, which was way ahead of its time. He drew that shit in 1967.
E-bikes, baby.
His mother, Jean, perhaps summed her son up best. Quote, "He's too damn smart. That's what his problem is."
Oh.
I know.
Wow. R.I.P., man.
I know. Walking out of the courthouse, going up to the guards
Yeah.
and being like, "Hey, where's the closest exit?" Amazing.
Yep. Well done. What a story.
Nice. Good job.
Thank you.
Great. So I will not be discussing forensics today, but instead we'll be regaling you with the tale of a different kind of switcheroo. One Kenyon and Zach definitely never needed to worry about because their baby looks exactly like them.
Sure does. She's a perfect half and half of the two of us.
It's kind of terrifying.
It's really
They
funny.
mixed her up in that tube just perfect.
They really did. But this story is very heartbreaking. It brings up a lot of feelings about like the fucking patriarchy, about not believing women, and about how lonely it must have been to live in a situation that you like knew something to be true, but no one else, or at least no one else capable of helping, was willing to believe you.
Oh, God. Okay.
And so these are just your circumstances now. It's like you feel like you're going completely insane.
Oh, my God. Okay.
So little Deanne Angel had been teased all her life for looking so different from her siblings. She had corn silk blonde hair and blue eyes, while her siblings, who I think her mother was of like Latinx descent. So her siblings also had brown hair, brown eyes, like thick,
Quite
kind of
dark,
curly hair. Yeah, darker more olive-skinned complexions. And she's just this like little Sonia, blonde hair, blue
Oh my
eye
God.
kid. And they're living in rural Heppner, Oregon, and the kids on the playground, who could be little fucking assholes, would say that her mom must have slept with someone else, that her dad wasn't her real father, and like all the awful insinuations that go along with an alleged affair. 20 miles across town, another little girl, Kay Renee Reed, faced similar taunting. Hers less so from schoolmates, but more in the form of rumors whispered among family. Not rumors of an affair, however, but rumors that the child they were raising was an imposter switched with their real child at birth.
Oh, my God.
Ooh.
It was 1953 when they were born. DNA testing was in the distant future, and young mothers struggling with postpartum depression were rarely heard, let alone believed. The day her baby girl was born, Marjorie Angel fell in love with the little bald baby that was placed right in her arms.
A little bald baby.
Little cue ball baby. Nurses tenderly took this baby to be cleaned up, and after returning from bath time, Marjorie cried to the nurses and was convinced, like screaming, that this other bald little baby was not her baby. Unable or possibly unwilling to double check, the nurses assured her this was her baby, and she was soon sent home to raise a child who felt like a stranger.
That is so fucking scary. And yet, first of all, it's 2023. And I'm sorry, I had a lot of nurses and healthcare workers who did not listen to me fucking at all. And it was actually quite traumatic.
I'm sure. It's horrible.
And this, I can absolutely see this. Like now it won't happen because they do the little bracelets and you know, they have things in place because shit like this happened.
But for other things.
But I can absolutely see them just being like,
Yep, you're postpartum.
calm down.
Yep.
You're
Relax.
you're treated
It's your
like
fucking
an
baby.
insane inconvenience, basically.
Well, was their
Have
shift
fun.
almost done? Yeah, thanks.
So the thought that the child had been switched at birth was dismissed, falling away to family folklore. Donalda Reed, the only other mother in the tiny hospital that day, had a difficult birth requiring full sedation. So she accepted the cleaned up child when she had come out of sedation. She didn't have any memory of that first like placement.
Right.
The baby was taken to be
How could
bathed.
she know?
These were the only two babies. It was a very small rural hospital. These are the only two babies that were born that day. And they both were taken away for bath time. They're both bald. These bald little pale babies that were born with blue eyes. Swapped them up, brought it back. Donalda is like, that's my baby.
And
like, I didn't even question
a
it.
lot of babies are born with blue eyes. And they
Exactly.
don't
Yeah.
necessarily stay blue.
Yeah.
Rumors of Marjorie's accusations had made their way through town and all the way to Donalda, who dismissed them and didn't give it another thought. She had her baby. Her family was complete. You know, that was that.
I could also see not wanting to hear that if you didn't have any suspicion and
Right.
you're like, what? Like, no.
Only once did she bring up the rumors when her children were older. And according to Kay Renee's memory, she told Kay Renee that they were not true. You are my, quote, you are my daughter and you always will be, she said. And so the two families lived on as normal, a mere 20 miles apart, but never in contact, never at the same school. The children were unaware that the other family even really existed. The girls would grow up, move away, get married, have kids of their own, become grandparents.
Wow.
And the mothers who had suspected or denied that their daughters weren't their own had passed away, seemingly taking any answers to this rumor with them.
What about the dads? The dads are just not. It's
not
the 50s.
not kicking up a fuss, not involved. Like, they're involved with the family, but they're not like, you know.
Yeah, they don't have strong opinions.
Right.
My parolee friend sleeping on the couch.
It's fine. Don't worry about it.
Gonna go mow the lawn, check the gutters.
Yep. So that's until the summer of 2009 when Kay Renee's brother, Bobby Reed, got a call from an 86-year-old woman who had known his mother, Marjorie, and had also lived next door to the Angel family in Oregon. Quote, she said she had something she had to get off her chest, Bobby said in an interview, so he agreed to go meet with her. At this point, you know, she's 86. She's living in a nursing home. She can't travel.
Imagine getting a phone call from a rando 86-year-old
Nursing
woman in a
home.
nursing home saying she has something she needs to get off her chest. Will you
And
come
won't
meet
tell
with
him
her?
over the phone. Ah. So he's like, hell yes, I'm curious as fuck.
Yeah.
So he goes to the nursing home where she lives and sits with her. The woman told him that his mother, Marjorie, who was not sedated when the babies were born, and she was the one who did
Had the
say, like,
suspicions.
this isn't my baby. So she had confided in this woman, who was her neighbor, in her resolute belief that her child had been switched at birth. With no one else really believing her to talk to, this neighbor had been kind of her only confidant. The neighbor then produces a photo as proof of the switch, because I guess Marjorie maybe got this picture and then gave it to her. Bobby took a look at the picture, believing it to be his little sister, Kay Renee, photographed around 7th or 8th grade. But he was shocked when the woman corrected him. The photo was of Deanne Angel's biological sister, Juanita.
Oh my God. So his sister looks so much like
The other
girl.
family's biological kid. So I guess not Deanne's biological sister, the other family's biological child. It's like, no, that's not your sister. That's this other family's kid.
Who looks
And
just like
they
your
look
sister.
Identical. And even when they met later as adults, they made a joke that was like, well, we don't need to get a DNA test. Like, we're twins. Like, this is absurd. Bobby could not deny the incredible likeness and didn't quite know what to do. He was kind of afraid to talk to his siblings. He didn't want to hurt or change the family, but he knew that he had a responsibility to do so. So he actually called his older sister and said, like, I don't know how to tell, you know, Kay Renee that, like, she's not
Part of our family.
sibling. Like, I don't know what to do.
Right.
So they sat down with her together and were like, listen, this fucking lady on her deathbed basically made a deathbed confession that, like, this is a thing, and here's the photo of who we suspect to be your biological sibling. So at the end of 2009, Kay Renee, Bobby, and their sister Dorothy met Deanne at a Kennewick, Washington clinic to all have their DNA tested. The doctor said Kay Renee and Deanne's DNA would be compared to Bobby and Dorothy's DNA to determine the probability of relation between the four of them. A week later, Kay Renee gets the results. She's at work, so she goes to her car to open the envelope privately.
She's at work.
She's at work. She had zero DNA in common with the two people that she grew up with as her brother and sister.
And it's 2009, so this is pretty early on. Like, I feel like this is becoming more, not switched at birth is not common,
Right.
but like getting shocking DNA results in one's family.
I was going to say more of a Kenyan secret love child situation. Yeah.
I know from personal experience is becoming more common in people's lives. But yeah, in 2009, still early days.
Well, yeah, we didn't have like the Ancestry or 23andMe kits, but you could certainly go
To a lab.
or and have your DNA done. Deanne, however, shared 99.9% DNA like relatability with Bobby and Dorothy.
Oh my
Yeah,
God.
there's no
so
doubt.
it just confirmed everything.
Yep. So Kay Renee says, I cried, I wanted to be a Reed, and I discovered my life wasn't my life.
And then
Which,
I went back to work.
Which,
Pretty much.
God.
not to invalidate this person's feelings, because she can feel however the fuck she wants to feel.
Mm-hmm.
But there are multiple ways of looking at it. And
For sure. And she gets there.
yeah.
And I think something she says a little bit later, I think resonates with the my life wasn't my life portion a little bit more as to like why this was so emotional for her. So, and for both of them, obviously. But the weeks following the discovery were incredibly emotional for both women. They're both grappling with grief over the realization that they will never have met their birth parents because now both sets of parents are
no.
dead.
Oh, that's
And, like,
horrible.
Oh, both
The 80
parents.
Yeah.
All four.
And there was an interview, I guess, or maybe the interview was with Bobby, but Bobby was talking about how when he went and sat down with that elderly former neighbor, the neighbor had even said, I didn't want to bring this information forward until while your mom was still alive because it was like so awful for her
Yeah.
that I didn't want to bring it back up. So I've basically been waiting for your parents to pass away, hoping I outlive them, to be able to contact you and tell you that like I have this photograph and that this is true and you should, now that we have the technology, you should go check this out. So yeah, both sets of parents gone. The sisters are 56 at this point. 56 years old when they discover that they were switched at birth and
do
they
you
were
not
related.
get to just meet them and learn about them and to establish a relationship with them potentially, but you also don't even get the closure to the one who had the suspicions to be like, why didn't you pursue this?
Yeah,
Yeah.
my heart really breaks for Marjorie. Really, really breaks for her. So, though none of this is obviously her fault,
No.
Kay Renee grappled with extreme guilt. She said she felt she had stolen the other woman, Dee's memories. When she looked at her family now, she felt, quote, I've cheated them. It shouldn't have been me. I'm glad it was because I've had a wonderful life. Like, I love my family that I grew up with, but I feel like I took this life from Deanne, you know, and vice versa.
Well, no, I mean, yeah, obviously, again, she can feel however the fuck she
Right.
wants to feel.
It's understandable.
But
I think
it's-
that this would be so complex.
It's like survivor guilt, where it's like,
Exactly.
you aren't at fault, but
No.
you have this psychological phenomenon of feeling guilt.
So Deanne and Kay Renee have become incredibly close throughout this process, referring to each other as twisters. How fucking cute is that? And Deanne helped support Kay Renee through all of that guilt. She said, quote, I'm trying to move forward and look at the positive. She said, I love my kids. I love my husband. I love my life. And you can't look back. It just drives you crazy. They've shared notes about each other's lives and revealed special little connections so that they could like get to know each other's parents, you know, through their surviving family members. I mean, that is just
Yeah.
so fucking sad.
Tell me about your childhood and let me fantasize that it was my childhood.
Right, or what it would have been
doors,
like.
Would've
like
been.
what could have been.
Oh, God, that would be so
Weird.
hard.
Deanne had grown up loving horses, which was unlikely in her, I guess, accidentally adoptive family because they had no tradition of riding horses. They were like, wasn't their thing. And then she learned when she met Kay Renee that Kay had been brought up on a ranch by her father, who was actually Deanne's biological father, and that he referred to himself as like a cowboy. Like he was super into horses
That's
and horseback
so
riding.
weird. I have chills. It's so
Yeah.
weird
I
how
love
much
that.
is not free will and is
Nope.
just
In your
Genetic
genes.
code, baby. We are just
Yeah.
meat computers.
we're literally meat computers.
Kay Renee like cracked her chewing gum, like smacked her gum in a very distinctive way. And when she met her biological sisters for the first time, she noticed that they did the exact same thing.
I noticed that I do a thing, like if I have too much saliva in my mouth, I'm starting to do this thing where I like it in the exact same way that my grandmother's sister, my great aunt Audie,
Woo!
used to do.
You're
Weird.
gonna see Sonia do it, and you're gonna
Wild.
shit your pants.
Yeah.
Does your mom do it?
I don't think so, but
It like skipped.
yeah.
It can.
Weird.
So weird.
As for the hospital that switched them, the only compensation offered for this trauma was some free counseling.
Oh.
which the sisters declined,
Half
choosing
off your next birth.
Exactly. Which the sisters declined, choosing
56-year-olds.
instead to continue moving forward together and getting to know as much about their biological families as they can to make up for lost time. I mean, on the one hand, I'm like, I think the hospital owed them some compensation beyond that.
Yeah.
But from a legal standpoint, basically anyone who would have worked
long
there at that
dead.
time is dead or very much retired.
Yeah.
There's not really anything that they could really do.
There's no way of proving culpability
I mean,
to the point where you could be like, okay, they owe you this amount of money.
Right.
Exactly, because they can't prove that it was like malicious in any
Statute of
way.
limitations, probably.
Statute of limitations. It's two bald little baby girls. They just mixed them up.
What would that law, like what? So what would, like it's fucked
I don't
up,
know.
but
I know.
I mean,
Theft?
like some
Kidnapping?
sort of, not neglect,
emotional
but
trauma,
like negligence. Negligence.
Yeah, negligence.
yeah.
Accidental negligence or whatever. We as a country are so litigious that I'm sure there is something.
Mm-hmm.
And if like these sisters really wanted to go there, they probably could, but they both agreed. They were like, well, now we know we have these great lives and now we have each other and we're just gonna fucking move on. Like,
Yeah.
What are you gonna do?
Everyone that was involved is dead. So
yeah, who are we gonna go after? So yeah, but that was like a huge news article in 2009. They were 56 years old and discovered that the rumors were true. They were switched at birth. Isn't that wild?
So wild.
freaky.
Yeah, really freaky and just really fucking sad.
Yeah.
Ugh. Anyway, you're welcome.
Wow.
That is a
Switcheroo.
switcheroo.
Well,
That's the
Sonia's
ultimate
definitely
switcheroo.
mine. I am not worried.
Yeah,
No.
bitch. She is.
No question.
No doubt.
I would actually like have you committed if you started being
Worrying.
convinced it wasn't your baby. No, not possible.
Also, I recently reread The Fifth Child.
Why are you doing this to yourself?
I don't know.
It's part of the process. I watched so much Call the Midwife, which is just horrific birth story after horrific birth story. And like
God.
the lead up. You need to.
I'm digging in.
It's your own little mini version of watching Contagion right after fucking COVID hit.
Totally.
Yeah,
Who
I get
didn't
that.
do that?
I can
Everyone
relate
did.
to that. It is good. I might watch it again.
All right. Well, thank you to me for selecting this episode.
Indeed. It was fascinating.
It turned out pretty good. I'm glad you retrofitted a topic around that case that you found.
Yep.
Here for it.
How it always works.
The old switcheroo, babe.
All right. Well, we'll talk to you next week.
See you later.
Bye-bye.